My mother lay in her coffin, and I looked at her, and I laughed. She looked odd. She looked like a fish. Orange lipstick. She would have hated it. She was vain. She was a very vain woman. My mother lay in her coffin, and I looked at her, and I remembered her. I remember her. I remember her because I am present. She was supposed to marry one of the Mara brothers. Tim Mara. Big hotshot. Oh, the New York Giants. Tim Mara. Famous nieces, Rooney and Kate Mara. So I could have been a famous actress. But I'm not. I'm not a Mara. I'm a McCartney, like my dad. He was a Yale man. His dad was a Yale man. I'm a SUNY purchased one semester man. When they got married, he was 21, she was 20. They were young, you know. He was a writer. She was a beautiful model. They were all F. Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald, except without, knowing what the tragic ending to that story is. Yeah. So many of our heroes back then, we just knew the beginnings of their stories, never the endings, just the laughter and the drinking and the romance. Never the alcoholism and the institutions, just the laughter and the drinking and the romance. Never the jealousy, the trauma, and the hate, just the laughter and the drinking and the romance. She was beautiful, my mother. I would get lost in her eyes when I was a boy. Just lost. There comes a time in every kid that grows up in the city, their parent has to take them on a public transportation so they can make sure they get off at the right stop. My mother took me on the bus, and I was just staring into her eyes, and I missed the stop. And she was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Salvador Dali drew a picture of her on a cocktail napkin and signed it. She threw it away. She grew up in New York in the 1950s, the daughter of an Irish woman and an Italian man. She was the only girl with two brothers. The Principessa. My grandfather, he used to run numbers on 119th Street, and then he became a bookmaker to all sorts of local gangsters. And it was all hush-hush what my grandpa did until I was in my 20s, and he was dying, and The Sopranos came on TV. And suddenly my mother was all... This is a part of who I am, Patrick. Deal with it. I was like, oh yeah. It was cool for a 20-something man-child to think he was all mobbed up. I was tied to the underworld. Bam! How romantic. My Yale dad won my mother's heart, and they went to Mexico that first year of marriage, San Miguel, where they got to drink with actor Lee Marvin. Now, Lee Marvin was a kind of American actor that America thought was representative of what it meant to be an American male back then. Yeah, Lee Marvin was the kind of actor that would disappear from a movie set for days and then show up still drunk, hit his mark, and say his line. Woo! What a hero! Lee Marvin! And the Lee Marvin stories, oh my. My dad used to tell me when Lee would see my mom, he'd say, Leighton, if that was my broad, I'd hit her. Finally, my parents moved back to New York City, and my dad taught English at a school on the Upper West Side. Jorge, you gonna read your poem? And they were happy, and there was drinking, and there was romance, and there was laughter, and there were parties. And then they decided they wanted a child. And they tried and they tried for years until finally on July 31st, 1900. A boy was born. An angel child. And then a year and 2 weeks later, another boy was born. Irish twins. And then the Depression was born. And it never really left my mother. It hung around her like a wool scarf in the summertime. And the drinking escalated until they stopped. They just stopped. For 20 years, my mom and dad just stopped drinking. She embarrassed herself in a rough way in front of her boys, and she stopped drinking. Only she did it without, any help, asking for any help. She did it without any sort of support system. And it's my opinion she hated every fucking minute of those 20 years. She white-knuckled it the whole time, except for the pills, and they prescribed, 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 and they prescribed. And I'm grateful for psychiatry and therapy. I take meds myself, and, the people around me and myself, I'm very, very, very happy for them. But this is back, my mother was bipolar and they were calling it manic depression. It's hard to get the right thing to combo together. And my father would run around like an anxious waiter trying to please her, but she couldn't shake it, man. She just couldn't shake the depression. Except for when I got sober, right, Mom? You were okay when I got sober? I wanted you to be okay. Being a boy, growing up in New York City, and hearing all the fun the adults was having at parties. Whoa! It seemed like thrilling until it would get dark. And I remember when it would get dark, seemingly everybody would be getting along and then fights would break out. Like everybody would be over for Thanksgiving, then suddenly, BAM! Some old Irish Italian mumbo jumbo bullshit about double parked cars, or boom! Don't pour wine over her head, combined with the drinking, right? I mean, there's nothing more bizarre than seeing grown-ups drunk. It's as if the people that control everything are suddenly out of control. It's like it's terrifying and it's kind of funny at the same time. And then hugs last too long. And touches linger. Boundaries get crossed. 15, I'm in boarding school. 16, I'm kicked out. I'm back in New York City where I've been drinking since I was 14. My home turf, senior year of high school, I had these two dancers, right? Lisa and Lisa, sure, why not? We would go to this Mexican place during lunch and we would drink margaritas and we would get fucking hammered and we would have good times, and then I'd have to go back to class, to geometry class, which I hated, and I'd be hammered. I'd be like, come on into class. Hey, Paul, Essence, come on into class. That was fun. I was having fun. Mr. Chambers, the teacher, geometry teacher, he was from Australia. He'd be like, Patrick, what are you doing? And I was like, Mr. Chalmers, I'm having fun, man. I'm having fun. Come on. I was fun. I was a fun drunk, man. And later that day, my principal, Mr. Lawrence, he was a very nice man. He sat me down. He said, Patrick, have you been drinking? And I said, absolutely not. With an emphasis on the not. Because I'd still been drinking at the meeting. And I got away with it. And if my mother knew, we never discussed it. Meanwhile, these days, she's doing seemingly better. I don't know, I'm a teenager, so I'm completely fucking self-absorbed, but she's doing seemingly better, you know, working different jobs, long past modeling. Fear of people and self-doubt got in the way of that career path. But she's, I don't know, she's very animated in the morning and very down at night, you know, talking very loudly on the phone in the morning. And then the afternoon, she's mostly in bed, except for the few times she'd pick up a random object like a wooden ship my brother made in shop class and chase me around the house with it. Whoa, hey, Mom, whoa, hey, whoa, hey, whoa, hey. I still don't know what the fuck that was about. 18, I moved to Chicago. Why I moved to Chicago, I have no idea. Something pulled me there. Something pulled a lot of people there. Chicago in the 90s, man. You know those lists of fantasy dinner guests you'd want? 3 people? 2 of those people were in Chicago in the 90s. I guarantee it. And it was a great time. And Chicago's a great town to be enabled by. And it was in Chicago, my alcoholism really began to strut its stuff. Yeah, it was cold, I'd go drink. It was warm, I'd go drink. It was fall, I'd go drink. Hold on a second. Oh, God. I get off stage. I did have a rule, though. I had a rule. Yes, for a while. I wouldn't actually go on stage after I drank. That was my rule. And then I wouldn't go on stage unless I drank. That's how it works. Chicago in the 90s. Whoa! What a time, man. No Facebook, no Twitter, no Snapchat, none of that fucking bullshit, man. It was crazy. It was wild. It was nuts. The funniest guy out of all of us, this guy, Rick. He was like Andy Kaufman and Andy Warhol and like another Andy, all put together. He was like all the pythons in one. He was that guy, you know, that guy. And Rick taught me day drinking. Day drinking in Chicago was, it was so much fun. Just downtown Chicago. day drinking Dreckov vodka, drinking Black Death vodka, climbing churches. Oh! Climbing a church in the middle of the daytime. What is happening? I don't know. This is fucking awesome. Oh, Rick, what are we doing, Rick? What are we doing? He didn't have any idea, but he seemed like he did. He was the kind of guy that would wear a motorcycle helmet with the visor down and walk into a Polish bar and he'd just sit there. And the bartender would try and talk to him and he'd just sit there and we thought he was hilarious. And he was fucking funny. He was hilarious. He was brave as fuck. He was the most interesting out of all of us. And he drove a cab and he drove a cab to pay for stuff, and of course he died. He drove his cab right into the Chicago River. 27. The 27 Club, I guess, except, he wasn't a rock star, he was just an improviser in Chicago. Some people say it was an accident. Some people say it was a suicide. I don't know. We lived together and he died. Rick died, we went on. You're sad? Have a drink. Oh, in Chicago I could be 100% Irish too. Sure. Why not? Yeah, whatever gets me in the bars. Yeah, I'm from Ireland. I've never fucking been to Ireland. Still. Sure, yeah. Irish. Oh, and in Chicago, I met heroin. Are we good? Just to check in. Everybody good? Let's let that word sit there. Yeah. So this show's gonna get dark as fuck, or AF, and I'm gonna do my best to present everything in a light and fun, theatrical way. But if you leave this show and you think, wow, that guy made heroin sound so cool, I should try it, then you're a fucking idiot. The worst, I should be dead. Statistically, I should be dead. Okay, on with the fun and games. Now, if alcohol was my wife, then the drugs were my girlfriends. And heroin is a heck of a girlfriend. Heroin is like Penelope Cruz in that she's beautiful and alluring. And then she's like Casey Anthony in that she's the fucking worst. I remember the first time I tried it, the first time I did it, it was like being in a coffin. It's like being in a silk coffin. I remember that feeling distinctly. And I loved it. All my fears, all my insecurities. I have small wrists. I don't have a Yale man's chin. Just gone. I used to think I was a weekend user. I used to think I could just be like one of those jazz musicians who snorts a couple bags a day and then goes to the jazz club at night. Functioning, I was functioning. For fuck's sake. I was in the movie Elf. Sure, I showed up 7 hours late, but I showed up. I hit my mark, and I said my line. Go back to Santa Land. Huh? Just like Lee Marvin. My friends and the people that loved me, they knew there was a problem, but I was deep, deep in the river of denial. And then came the sickness. Now the thing about the sickness is orifices. The mouth, the anus just explode, and then it's like you have a fever, and it's like 100 million degrees, and you can't fucking move. And this is where it gets bad. This is where most of us don't make it past it. And it's like, oh my God, it's overwhelming, and you can't. And I should be dead, but I am present. I am present. I am present. I am present. I should be dead. That should be me in that coffin, Mom. That should be me in that coffin, Mom. But I had to go away. I had to go away. Cabin in the woods. I'm not there yet. No. I'm back here. I'm back with heroin and alcohol. My wife and my girlfriend. Living the dream. After Chicago, I moved back to New York. Now, New York in the early 2000s was a lot like Chicago in the 90s. In fact, it was just filled with people from Chicago in the 90s. It was the same cast, except it was a different set. Things are getting worse for me, though. Yeah, I was teaching, I wasn't showing up, I was canceling class. I haven't put a note on the door. I was working, I couldn't find. I wasn't present, right? I wasn't present like I'm here with you right now. I wasn't. I was back here. I remember 3 deaths, though. 3 deaths happening around this time. The first was my cousin, Jordy. Jordy was, he was gay, and he came up, or he was raised at a time when that was literally a death sentence. He was really funny. He was really handsome. He looked like George Hamilton, who you can look up later. And I suppose he came out to me in his way. You know, he had stacks of GQ magazine. He would tan for hours using baby oil. He made me watch Dynasty with him. And then at some point he just disappeared. He moved to San Francisco, and I lost touch with him. But when I was a boy, it was me, my brother, and Jordy, who was 7 years older. Now I have mixed feelings about Jordy because I can't remember whether or not he molested me. So I try and remember him fondly because I can't remember if I should ate his fucking guts, but I remember enough, you know, for now. He committed suicide. That was death number 1. Death number 2 was a therapist I had. His name was Bill. Bill was, he asked me a question. He said, "Why heroin?" We were just getting to the bottom of it. When I called to confirm an appointment with him, and someone else picked up and said, "Bill's dead." Just like that. The third death was my godfather. He was a big hotshot. He worked for the Boston Globe. Yeah, he windsurfed. Noam Chomsky spoke at his funeral. I really looked up to him, and I think he was killed by what I believe was his third wife, whom he met in Bosnia. There's so many things I don't have clarity on, so many things I don't really know for sure. So I'm going to take out my denial gun and I'm going to make some choices right here, right now. Okay. My cousin did not molest me. My godfather was killed by his third wife. My therapist, Bill, I don't know. I can't figure that one out. But I do know that for whatever reason, these three devastatingly wonderful excuses for an alcoholic set me on a tear. I became one of those guys that lives on the periphery. I lived on the edge. Yeah. You may have seen me sleeping or trying to sleep on a subway car. Or I was working for one of those grassroots organizations getting money for whales or some shit, and I'd take your money if it was cash, and I'd go right to the fucking liquor store, and I'd put it down. I'd put it like in bulletproof glass, and they'd give me rum or gin or vodka or whatever the fuck it was, and I... I was drunk always. Working so many different jobs, so many shitty jobs. Live in different places. I was homeless. I would go back, try to live with my parents. They'd kick me out. Get the fuck out of here. Fuck you. Break my ankle. Walking in the snow. It was long. It was gory. It was filled with unhealthy relationships, bad drugs, and malt liquor. I did quit heroin though. Atta boy. Yeah. I remember the first time I said out loud to my dad, I had a heroin problem. I said, Dad, I have a heroin problem. Now, it's not a fucking haiku, but it's definitely the most important thing you could do if you're struggling with any sort of addiction. The most important thing you could do is just say it out loud to another person. Just say it. It's hard as, you know. And then the minute I said it, some friends of mine tried to take me to meetings, but I was like, no. I'm going to go to a methadone clinic. Now, a methadone clinic is a very interesting place. It's filled with hotshot jazz musicians getting briefcases full of methadone so they could take it on the road with them. And then there's like Teamsters and myself and other junkies standing on fucking line every day. And it's open for like an hour and a half, except for Sunday. And you got to wait until the line, and the line's like around the block. It's like the opening of Star Wars every day. And you got to get your methadone, and you go wait on the line, and you finally get to the front of the line. Hey, stop pretending to know people, and maybe there's one person you recognize, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, all right. And then you get to the front of the line, and you're like, oh, and there's this nice Filipino man, and he remembers you, he remembers your name. and he smiles and he gives you a cup and it's got a little white liquid in it and it's Christmas time and he tells you about his tree and you're like, that's awesome, you got a tree, what a normal life you have. And you fill it with like orange tang and then you're talking to him and you smile and you drink it. And you throw it away in front of him. And if it's Saturday, he gives you a little, like a little plastic thing with the methadone degrees right in it. The amount you're supposed to take, and you child safety it open, and you put the tang in there, and you say, okay, happy Christmas. And he says, okay, and he says your name again. You're like, oh my God, somebody knows my name. That's so awesome. And then you take it, and then you're like, take it. And you got it with your life. And then you put it on your desk, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait until 12:01 a.m. Sunday. Bam, boom, and you take it, open it up. Oh, yeah. Gonna sing. Then you have to wait until fucking Monday. Yeah. Now, I should tell you about how cocaine became my main squeeze while I was online at the methadone clinic. I should tell you about that. I mean, we've been flirting for years. And finally, we hooked up online at the methadone clinic. But you know what? I'm going to leave that part to your imagination because I'm fucking exhausted talking about the heroin. Meanwhile, my mother is exhausted by me. Exhausted. Her boy, her angel, has broken her heart. I was an embarrassment, I'm sure. She wanted nothing to do with me. Her and my dad went to Italy to celebrate 1,000,000 years of marriage. They got a dog. Could have gone to rehab maybe, Mom? I don't know if it would have worked. We knew people. So I'm on the methadone for about a year, and I meet Suboxone. Suboxone is a great thing, and I'm a huge advocate for Suboxone. It's an opiate replacement drug, and back then, you had to go to you had to get an ad in The Voice. It was in Europe already, like most things are, and then you had to find it in The Voice, and you'd go to like someplace in Queens where you give cash to these junkie guys who were like still using dope, but they had somehow stolen the right prescriptions. You give them cash to feed their habit, and then they'd give you the prescription, and it would work. You'd go to a pharmacy down by NYU, and you'd get a bunch of needles. And a little thing of Suboxone. Now, giving needles to a junkie is like bingo, but I'm fortunate I was not a needle user, not because I'm better than that, because I just don't have veins, nor any desire to work out. So, in retrospect, I'm lucky because I'd be living with HIV or Hep C. But the thing about Suboxone, it's great, but it doesn't get you off the alcohol and the cocaine. So I was like, I know what the fucking problem is. I know what the problem is. It's the city's fault. It's the city's fault. If I could just get out of the city, I'd be okay. So I knew of a cabin in the woods, and I'd go there, and I'd be alone. This is a good idea. So I did it. Now, the minute I walk in the door in Wyoming, my old lady's there to greet me as a bottle of vermouth. Yeah. Hey, baby. All right. Did you bring a friend? Oh, Wyoming. Wyoming is beautiful. It's got deer and it's got antelope. I'm not entirely sure of the difference. It's got eagles and it's got hawks and it's got snow-capped mountains and it's got rivers, big rivers swimming with rainbow trout, and you can see the stars at night. And Wyoming is beautiful on the outside, but I didn't go outside. I stayed inside, alone with a bottle of black velvet Canadian whiskey and tall boys of old Milwaukee's best and a gun to my head. There's a lot of guns in Wyoming. You need guns because there's bears and deer and antelope. You show up at the fucking door and you gotta do something. But I probably would have just let the bear maul me. Would have been a way more interesting way to die. Nobody wanted me back in the city. It's hard to watch somebody you love destroy themselves and you can't make anybody sober. I was there a lot longer than I thought I'd be, though. I was there like 8 months. I thought it was supposed to be 2 months. I would, I'd watch the TV. There was like one channel on the TV. One channel. It was the Esquire channel. And I would just show like the Gene Simmons show all the way. Gene Simmons. The guy from Kiss has a fucking show. Finally, I went to the library, the public library, and I rented all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I watched all of it backwards, season 7 through season 2. So if you've seen season 1, please don't spoil it for me. And I watch them. And I'd cry when I'd watch Buffy. I was like, they were just addicts. They couldn't help it. They were just vampires. I began to identify as an alcoholic through vampires. Then it got cold and dark, like operatic dark. I made one friend while I was there. His name was Kevin, and he worked at the Exxon. And I'd go into the Exxon, I'd be like, hey Kevin, what's up? And then he'd like tell me about snowboarding, and I'd pretend to be interested. Oh yeah, it sounds just like surfing on snow. I don't know. That's a lot of snow. And then I'd be like, Kevin, do you have any pizzas? And he'd give me a pizza. And that's how I'd eat. And they were so good. The Wyoming pizza, man. At an Exxon. In the middle of fucking nowhere. Oh, he was a good guy, Kevin. I found out a year later, he died. Drunk driving, he stole a car outside of Casper, Wyoming. There was never any obit. Finally, on January 11th, 2014, I got a ticket back to New York. I took like the last tiny little bit of my Suboxone, because by then it was sublingual. I saved like a little tiny corner of it just for this moment. So I put it under my tongue so I wouldn't shit all over the other passengers. You're welcome. And I landed back in New York, and I had a week. My mother wouldn't talk to me. I knew that I needed help. I knew that I had to ask for help. I knew that I met a guy. I met a guy who was funny. He was in a happy relationship. He was successful, and he was sober. And I knew I wanted what that guy had. Now, if there was a secret society of recovering drunk people group, I would not say I was a member because, secret. But I can say I started going to meetings because A, I had nothing better to do, and A, I was fucking broken. Both spiritually and physically broken. What does that mean, huh? Spiritually broken. You can't go to a doctor and say, Doc, I have a broken spirit. Go to a church, which is often what the secret society of recovering drunk people can resemble, in that all they do is talk about God. But, whatever works. Mom, when I came out here and you died, I went to one of these things, and there was a guy with a deep state book in front of him. And I remember thinking, this guy and we are not going to be friends. But I remember I just cried, and I said, you had died. And he said, picking up's not going to bring her back. And I remember thinking that, and I left the meeting, and I didn't pick up. I remember the first day I didn't drink. That was a big day. I'd heard at a meeting, you don't have to drink today. And I remember thinking, I kind of do. But I'll try it. It was a long day. But I didn't drink that day. And then I didn't drink the day after. And then I didn't drink the day after that. And then suddenly it was like walls were coming down in my head. And it was like sense memory of being a 5-year-old boy again. Oh, wow. And it was like, and it was like ice cream. Oh my God, just so much ice cream. Oh, and it was like dogs, and they were all like, God. And I was like, sure. And I was trees and dogs and ice cream. And then they're like, take a good look at yourself now. I'm like, no, I want dogs and ice cream and trees, and it's a walk in the park compared to what you've been through. Maybe you should grow the fuck up. I don't want to do that part. And then you do it, and it brings up so much shame, and you do the best of you can at the time. And you go through it, and then you feel lighter, and then they're all like, try saying you're sorry. And I'm like, I said I was sorry every time I was fucked up. And they're like, well, try a different word. And you're like, okay, I'll try regret. So you try the word regret, and then you try writing letters, and then you try all sorts of different things, and then sometimes you're just like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna make it through the day sober. And then sometimes they're like, you should try paying back that Dwayne Reed you stole all those oil cans of Foster's from. And I'm like, no. I'm a big take what you want and leave the rest kind of guy. But you know what? Mom, the best part was it reconnected us. I would go to these things. I would do the people I saw at the things for you. I'd do Suzanne, who tried to control it, and would talk about Oxycontin. And I was like, I am in the right place. And then I would do Broadway Joe, who wore a cowboy hat. Why the fuck we called him Broadway Joe instead of, I don't know. I have no idea. I would talk about Fernando. I don't know what he was saying, but he said it with such intensity, we were mesmerized. I talk about Tom, the actor, who told me, easy does it, Patrick. And we would talk, and we would connect, and we would laugh. And now here I am. You have orange lipstick. I don't know how to. I don't know how to. This moment. But I have tools, Mom. I have tools. I have tools like gratitude, Mom. I never knew what gratitude was. I don't know. I'm transformed, Mom. And I've lost you, but I'm still living for you. And I get to be present. Mom, I get to be present today. Hey, Ronnie. Thank you all very much. Thank you to May Roney. Thank you to Giancarlo in the booth. Thank you for coming. I have 2 more of these, and then I'm going to be doing it on a different night. I'm not entirely sure, but I posted on the things. If you know anybody that might benefit from a show like this, please tell them to come. Otherwise, tell your friends and family. You know, whatever you want. Hey, have a good night. Thank you. Thank you, John Holler. Oh my God, the sounds from the lobby were driving me fucking crazy. I saw